Hello, I'm Isaac Hayes III, founder and CEO of Fanbase. Listen to what I'm about to tell you. The window to invest in Fanbase is closing. We've raised over $10.6 million of our $17 million goal. That means there's room for less than 6,370 people to invest in Fanbase for the average amount. The minimum to invest in Fanbase right now is $399. That makes you an owner in Fanbase today. Go to startengine.com/fanbase to invest. Why? Because current social apps have taken advantage of users for far too long, with content suppression, shadow banning, harmful racist content, and no real tools for monetization and equity. Fanbase has over 1.4 million users and counting, allowing anyone to reach all their following and monetize their content from day one. Social media is the new TV, and whoever owns the apps that distribute that content have the opportunity to own potential billion-dollar companies. While big platforms with uncertain futures are failing to serve their users, Fanbase is stepping up to fill the gap. Don't wait until it's too late. Invest now, invest for yourself and your future. Go to startengine.com/fanbase and own the next generation of social media.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Hold no punches.
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Black power.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig? Today is Wednesday, July 30th, 2025. Coming up on Roland Martin Unfiltered, streaming live on the Black Star Network. Vice President Kamala Harris makes a huge announcement saying she will not run for governor of California. In Texans, Republicans kiss the ass of Donald Trump, and they take out 5 Democrats with these new congressional maps, and they specifically are trying to screw over black and brown voters. We'll talk to a Texas state rep who sits on the Redistricting committee about how shameful these maps are and how it was done in secret. Also, the Senate narrowly confirmed Trump's attorney Emil Bove, who lied in front of the committee, proved him to be on a powerful appeals court, one step away from the Supreme Court. Yes, folks. It's been 60 years since President Lyndon B. Johnson signed Medicaid into law. We'll talk to an expert who worked in the Biden administration about how what Republicans are doing is going to have devastating impact on people all across this country, especially African Americans. And plus, we'll talk with the son of the founder of Good Foods. We'll talk about how they have been trying to compete with their canned food company and also the impact of the Target boycott on their sales. It is time to bring the funk on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Let's go.
He's got it. Whatever the miss, he's on it. Whatever it is, he's got the scoop, the fact, the find. And when it breaks, he's right on time and it's rolling. Best believe he's knowing. Putting it down from sports to news to politics. With entertainment just for kicks, he's rolling. It's on go, roll, roll, y'all. It's Roland Martin, yeah. Rolling with Roland now. He's funky, he's fresh, he's real, the best. You know he's Roland Martin now.
Donald Trump wants it. Republicans, they will give it to him. The Republicans today in Texas this morning unveiled the new congressional maps that devastates the Democratic delegation in Texas. But they also screw over voters in the state of Texas who are black and brown. Now, keep in mind, 61% of Texas, minority. Yet, for these Republicans, they want as many white members of Congress as they possibly can. So as a result of this decision, what they're doing is they're forcing a number of Democrats who to now run against each other when it comes to this the seats. They take out a black district in Fort Worth. They take out a black district in Houston. And the surgical precision by which they're operating is all because of Donald Trump. There are so many people in Texas who've been speaking out on this. But this has been a very clear plan for Republicans because Donald Trump said, I want 5 seats. He wants to take out Jasmine Crockett. He wants to take out Congressman Al Green. But he made it clear to Texas Governor Greg Abbott, who's nothing but a Trump sycophant, saying that, hey, I want to pick up 5 because Republicans are scared to death they're going to lose the House next year. So as a result of the Texas House Congressional Redistricting Committee has been having these hearings. Now, here's the crazy thing about these hearings. People have been testifying, but they hadn't had any maps. It wasn't until this morning when the maps were released. I'm going to show some of that a little bit later. But first, I want to talk right now with Texas State Representative Yolanda Jones, who sits on that committee. She glad to have you here. So here's what's crazy. You've been on this committee, and you sent me this video earlier where the chair came up with this rule that, y'all, in order for anybody to speak, they had to be so-called neutral. They couldn't be for or against, which is crazy because it's clear what they're trying to do.
So for sure, and let me say this, I stepped down from the committee because I'm running for something, but that's neither here nor there. What they wanted to do is they're trying to create a record. And the record that they're trying to create is that everybody's neutral on these maps. So people are literally
Actually, let's hold tight 1 second. I'm getting some feedback. So if you have our live feed up, can you mute that on your end? Because it looks like I'm getting feedback. So when you talk, I'm actually getting double audio.
I don't.
Okay, keep talking.
Come back to me and because right. I don't have your live feed up.
Okay, all right. So I'm not sure why we're getting double audio. Keep talking, and if it continues, we'll stop and try to get it fixed. But go ahead.
Okay, so we actually have these hearings with no maps, and people were expected to testify, with the exception of one person. Everybody said we don't want redistricting, like at all. But there was nothing to complain about, like in actuality. Normally, there's supposed to be a bill before us. People come and they speak on the bill, so you can see how the bill affects you. So, for example, the bill that was filed this morning, the racist bill that was filed this morning, literally, for the most part, substitutes Congressional District 18 for Congressional District 9. So,
all right,
I believe
so 1 second. For people who don't understand, the maps there. So, Congressional District 18 in Houston was held by the late Congressman Sylvester Turner, late Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee. That's the seat that you also are actually announced you were running for Congress. Congressional District 9 was the seat held by Congressman Al Green, correct?
Yes. Yes.
So what they're doing is they're wiping out 9, making that a Republican district. And to force
for Hispanics
and to force Congressman Al Green to run for the 18th congressional seat. And the way they changed the map, that's where he now lives.
So they literally moved him into Congressional District 18. Although normally incumbents, there's something that says protect incumbents. Texas has said, we don't give a hell about that. We're not protecting incumbents. They literally moved Congressman Green into Congressional District 18. Let me tell you how they did it. They took, for Congressional District 18, 70.7% of the proposed Congressional District 18 comes from Congressional District 9. So his constituents will now be in Congressional District 18. They're not used to being in Congressional District 18. Congressional District 18 is only keeping 25.6%. So I'm certain everybody who's running for Congressional District 18 is just sick because people love Congressman Green here. But the bottom line is there were 2 black seats, and there's now only going to be 1. That's the problem. They did the same thing up in Dallas County and Tarrant County. They literally moved it.
Yep. So let's go. Okay. So in Dallas County, Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, Tarrant County,
I spoke to her today.
Tarrant County, Congressman Mark Veazey. He's in Fort Worth. So what they've done is they've completely eliminated the Democratic district in that seat in Fort Worth. Just totally eliminated. And in fact, and we've been saying this because they've been doing redistricting on the county level where they are trying to eliminate one of the black county commissioners in Tarrant County. And Tarrant County is the last large county in Texas that's red. So they are desperate to hold on to that county because Harris County, Dallas County, Austin, Travis County, Bexar County, Travis County is Austin, Bexar County, San Antonio. All those are now blue counties. And so that's the game they're playing. But go right ahead.
But let me tell you what they did. And I spoke to Jasmine today, or Congresswoman Crockett today. Here's the deal. They literally moved her from Congressional District 30, where she currently represents, and they moved her into Congressional District 33, which is where Mark Vesey represents. They literally took out all of the economic drivers in her district. So not only have they tried to consolidate black districts to get rid of 2 black congresspeople, but they've also taken away economic drivers. Airports are economic drivers. They did the same thing in Congressional District 18. They took that from CD 18. It's always been there. So they are eviscerating black districts, and it is terrible. And literally, people who live in Fort Bend, they're used to voting for CD 9. They're not used to voting for CD 18. People will go to the polls. If they go to the polls, they will not know who they're voting for because they're literally not used to these people. This map is done with surgical precision. I almost believe that AI did it, and it is so racist on its face. I think that it violates Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act.
No.
First
of all, let's keep in mind how we got here.
Okay.
The Trump DOJ, first of all, I could go back. So these maps were approved by Republicans in Texas in 2021.
Let me be clear. These maps.
Go ahead.
These maps were drawn. They weren't just approved.
Right.
These maps were drawn by Republicans, and they shoved the redistricting plan down the reps' faces. If you'll recall, the reps did a cornbreak.
Right.
And they went to D.C. So these were Republican maps.
Right.
So
the Republicans drew these maps. The Republicans said that race was not a factor in drawing these maps.
They testified to that, Senator Huffman.
So they came. They were like real clear. Trump's Department of Justice sends them a letter and says, "Oh no, these violate the law by using race." And the same Republicans go, "Oh, you're right. We're going to redraw them."
Actually, no. The Republicans literally just testified ago in this trial about these maps. The Attorney General said, no, these maps were not based on race. We did not consider race. And Senator Joan Huffman, who was over the Senate Committee on Redistricting, said these maps didn't have anything to do with race.
Okay, so let's be clear. So Republicans in Texas said these maps have nothing to do with race, but the Trump DOJ sends a letter and says it does, and the Republicans go, okay, we're going to change the maps, when normally the state of Texas would say, no, we disagree, we'll see you in court.
That's what the state of Texas said a month ago. They've changed within the last month. And
so
let me be clear.
A month ago they said that, then Trump said, I need 5, and they was like, okay, cult leader, okay, we're going to give you 5.
Right. And the funny thing is, they identified 4 districts. They identified CD 18, CD 9, and CD 29 in Harris County, and they identified CD 33 in Dallas and Tarrant County.
So these are the 3 right here. These are the 3 at 9, 18, 29. Now, explain to people, because see, this is where we talk about cracking and packing. So what they did, so they made 18. So first of all, hold up. Let me go over here. So y'all see right here, percent of the black population in the 2000 census. Orange is 70 to 100. The magenta is 70 to 100. The orange is 60 to 69. So all of a sudden, so what they did was they packed as many black folks as possible into 18 in order to take them away from another district. And that's how they put 18 and 9 together to form this sort of one black super district.
Can you lower it a little bit, Roland? I want to explain something to what you said. Just lower it, that I can see the top part where it says, well, I need to see 29 and 18.
Yeah, it's right there.
But you can make it bigger.
I got it. So 29, 18, right there.
If you look where it was, leave it right there. So where the 18 is showing, you see at the bottom, it's got that. That is a high concentration of black people.
Yeah, that's why. The dark orange, that's the high concentration of black people. Go ahead.
Right. So if you go up to 29, you see where it says 29. That's Congressional District 29. That orange and red up there used to be in 18. It's now in 29. So they literally cracked because in redistricting talk, they talk about cracking a district or cracking people and then packing people. They took these high voting areas for black people and literally took them out of 18 and put them in 29. So 29 is represented by a Hispanic woman. And so, and hold up, the lower part is Acres Home. Acres Home is historic to Congressional District 18. Congressman Turner was from Acres Home. It's always been in Congressional District 18 under Barbara Jordan, Mickey Leland, Craig Washington, Sheila Jackson Lee. And all of a sudden, they took a high voting black precinct and they moved it to a Hispanic precinct, but there aren't enough black people to overcome that. So that area of Houston, that black area of Houston, will not they will not get to choose a representative of their choice like they did before. I mean, they literally have not tried to preserve any core parts of any of the congressional districts, the black ones. They are like, out the window, we about to divide y'all up, we about to take over, we gonna cut y'all from 4 to 2, just that quick.
Well, and not only that, what they've done is they are forcing 2 Democrats in the Austin, San Antonio area to run against each other. And so again, what their goal is, I think right now, is it 25-13, the breakdown, Republicans, Democrats?
Yes.
Breakdown. So it's 25.
There's 38 total, yes.
25 Republicans in the House, 13 Democrats. What they want are 30 Republicans in the House and 8 Democrats. And that's what their goal is, to put them all against, to basically force them all to compete against one another. Obviously, there are going to be legal challenges, but it is absolutely stunning, Representative Jones, to sit here and watch Republicans go, yeah, no, there was no race. And then now all of a sudden, because a month later, Trump wants to get what he wants. They're like, yeah, we're going to go ahead and move forward with this whole thing. It's crazy.
It is, and to the point that you were talking about with neutral, in court, it's important in court that people say I'm either for or against something. The reason they were just so cold with how they said, oh, no, you got to testify neutral, we don't have a map. Literally, when it goes to court, it's going to appear that people were neutral on it, they didn't have an opinion, which will help the Republicans try to keep these maps in court, which my personal opinion is we need to break up out of here because there's 88 Republicans and 62 Democrats in the House. There's 20 Republicans and 11 Democrats in the Senate. 62 don't never beat 88. 11 don't never beat 20. We need to get up out of here.
Okay, now when you say, when you say get up out of here, do you mean, first of all,
quorum break?
That's what I'm saying. So for people to understand, there has to be a quorum for the House to do business. And in previous redistricting battles, Democrats fled the state. Republicans have changed the rules, now saying they will fine any Democrat that is absent, $500 a day, something along those lines.
$500 a day, yes.
The Texas Tribune, I was looking at a story a little bit earlier where they were talking about that, where they said that Texas, here's the story right here, Texas Democrats are fundraising to potentially lead the state to block GEO-backed redistricting. Again, we previously saw them leave to go to Oklahoma and other places. Republicans even were threatening to send Texas state troopers after House Democrats if they did that. But the reality is, Democrats must do all they can to stop this, and stop it from happening. And the last time that happened, you frankly had some Democrat turncoats who said, oh, no, we need to stay here and fight. And that's what gave them a quorum.
Absolutely. So let me explain to you about the quorum. There are 150 of us. In order to conduct business, there have to be 2/3, which is 100. There are 88 Republicans. They need 12 Democrats to reach the 100 mark to conduct business, which is why we need at least 51 of us to go, because you can't get to 100 if 51 of us are gone. So, yeah, that's what we need to do. We need to stop this because mathematically we are overmatched, again, because of the 88-62 2011 dynamic that I told you about. That's the only way that we can stop this.
And one of the reasons you have that dynamic because they also have gerrymandered the state districts.
Yes, they have
to give them a majority. Y'all, do me a favor, pull up the tweet that went out today by that idiot J.D. Vance. If you all want to see a level of stupidity, J.D. Vance sent a tweet out today complaining about gerrymandering in California. Y'all, where's the J.D. Vance tweet? No, I can barely see it. You know what? I got it. Because I need to show people what it looks like. So come back. I'll pull it up in a second. If you want to understand how crazy these folks are, it really is unbelievable, Representative Jones, how hypocritical they are. You've got these silly Republicans complaining about gerrymandering. Kevin Kiley in California, oh, this is not right. This is just unfair. And so how dare you? All these different things along those lines. And these people are so you don't see this tweet right here. This is hilarious. So he posted. This is J.D. Vance. And mind you, where's J.D. Vance from? J.D. Vance is from Ohio. Okay, and what are they trying to do in Ohio? They've been gerrymandering in Ohio. They had a redistricting committee. They ignored that particular committee. They totally ignored the committee, and they're trying to gerrymander seats as we speak right now. First of all, so J.D. Vance goes, the gerrymandering in California is outrageous. Of their 52 congressional districts, 9 of them are Republican. That means 17% of their delegation is Republican when Republicans regularly win 40% of the vote in that state. How can this be possibly allowed? Well, okay, let's see, dumbass. Last I checked, the Supreme Court, the conservative Supreme Court ruled that they had no place when it came to political gerrymandering. Racial gerrymandering, they do. John Roberts-led Supreme Court said they have no place. So that gave Republicans the green light to gerrymander, which they also said was that the state Supreme Court then had jurisdiction. So that's why when the Democrats elected the woman in Wisconsin, which gave the Democrats a 4-3 majority on the Wisconsin Supreme Court, guess what they did? They ruled partisan gerrymandering to be unconstitutional. Because in Wisconsin, you talked about surgical. What the Republicans did in that state, if Democrats won 55% of the vote in Wisconsin, the Republicans would still control the legislature because of how they use surgical precision, computer models to actually be able to have political gerrymandering. So who the hell is J.D. Vance fooling? This is what Gavin Newsom did. This is his response to that idiot, J.D. Vance. I got you done. Y'all, I want y'all to pull up. Y'all got the graphic. Pull it up. This right here. Okay, this is the most gerrymandered states. All right, so I want y'all to see. This is Gavin Newsom responding to that fool, J.D. Vance, trying to show him, oh, you're complaining about California and gerrymandering when the states that gerrymander the most literally are Republican states. That's literally what his response is. Now, Representative Jones, what we already see is Gavin Newsom has already made clear, okay, two can play that game. And so, going back to the Texas Tribune, Newsom will move to redraw California map if Texas redistricts, teeing up national fight. And so the story right here says he's told California Governor Gavin Newsom has told aides he will move forward with a plan to redraw his state's congressional lines to install more Democrats if Texas Republicans pass their own updated map, according to a person with direct knowledge of Newsom's thinking. And so here's the deal, Representative Jones. Not just California. I say Maryland, you do it too. Illinois, you do it. Virginia, you do it. New York State, you do it. Though there are more populous states that are blue than there are red. And so if they want to pick up 5 in Texas, which still be fought in the courts, Democrats could pick up 12 to 15, maybe even 20 in these other states. Fight fire with fire.
We do. And because look, when you go low, I'm going to go lower. But what I'm telling you is this, Roland. Here's what's going to happen if the maps change here. The people are going to win because of how they gerrymandered. The lawsuit is going to come 4-5 years later. The damage is already going to be done. So that's why we have to do what we have to do now.
Right. Well,
we've got to stop it now.
Well, first of all, let's explain to people. The lawsuit's not going to come 4 or 5 years later. Lawsuit's going to be filed immediately. But here's what happens. The Supreme Court has a has a rule that if it's so right now this is July, okay? So they make this move right now. You're going to have the lawsuits. Well, the problem is your primaries. When are the Texas primaries?
But that's what I'm saying. They're going to get elected. The primaries are in March.
No, right. But I'm having to explain to people why what you're talking about. So because the Texas primaries are in March and the general election is in November, and the Supreme Court has done this before. They did this with the maps in Louisiana as well as Alabama. They allowed the election to move forward. So they basically froze everything in place by saying it's too late in order to litigate this, which is also BS because the Supreme Court can move fast if they chose to. So they're going to say, if this is now in July, Texas passes this map in the next week, lawsuits are immediately filed. Now you're going to district. Now you're going through all the steps. They're going to then say, well, you know what? Even if it comes to us by January, it's simply too late because the primary is in March. It's going to cause things to be an upheaval. So therefore, we're going to leave things in place, which means they will pick up those 5 seats.
Pick up those seats.
Election takes place.
Because you've got to file in December.
Right. Election takes place in November. Elections take place in November. And then the litigation continues. So essentially, they will get those 5 seats in the House in November 2026, and they might lose after that, but that means that those folks are in place through 2028.
Even farther than that, because the litigation that just happened in El Paso last month, Roland, was for the maps that were drawn in 2021. It's now 2025. So 4 years later, the trial happened. So those people have been elected for 4 years.
Right.
So the damage is done. And they have to draw the reason that the Republicans have to do this with the speed with which they're doing it is because the law requires that the maps be drawn within a certain period from the date that you have to file.
Yeah.
Which is in December. So, and people have to be able to look and say, hey, I want to run for this seat or I want to run for that seat. So that's why there's the haste, and that's also why there was redistricting by ambush. That's why they didn't put these maps out during the 3 hearings in Austin, Houston, and Arlington, because they didn't want people up in arms like they are now. And I believe just from a strategic standpoint, the only way we can stop it from happening where they don't actually take the seats yet is for us to quorum break and get out of here, is what I think we need to do. Because if we come back or if we don't quorum break, they're going to win the seats and the damage will already be done because they will be able to hold on to their lead in the House, in the midterms, and Trump will probably be running for his 3rd term, which we know he ain't supposed to do, but he don't give a care about what's really going on. So that's why it's important, and the only people who can stop this from happening are state representatives in Texas. And so at this moment in time, I am thankful to be the state representative for House District 147, because I'm going to do all I can do to stand in the gap for Texans generally and for Black Texans specifically, because if we lose these 2 Black seats, we won't ever get them back because of our population. So, and that doesn't make any sense. Black people are 12.33% of the Texas population. And right now with the 4 seats we have, that's only a little over 10%. If we lose 2, it's going to be down to 7% of the entire population. So our congressional delegation already is below our actual population in the state of Texas. That's why this stand is so very important. And that's why I'm asking people from around the country to help us to be able to sustain a quorum break. Because y'all think we just fighting for Houston or Dallas. Let me be clear, we fighting for democracy, because if you think it can't get worse where you at, let Trump stay in office for 6 more years.
Well, and again, what people need to understand, Republicans are doing this not just when it comes to the congressional district. They're doing it to a county commissioner's seat in Galveston County. They're doing it in Tarrant County. This is about holding on to power. That's what it is. Representative Jolanda Jones, we appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Roland.
I want to bring in my panel, Rob Portillo, who joins us right now. Robert, glad to have you on the show. Civil rights attorney, Robert, who also, first of all, out of Georgia, where they've had, of course, a number of redistricting battles in that state as well. And so we've seen that take place over and over and over again. Also, Rebecca Carruthers, of course, CEO of Fair Election Center. Glad to have her on the show as well. Rebecca, I'll start with you. Again, we know what their strategy is, and they're playing it out. I'm purposely wearing this shirt, Rebecca, because this is one of the issues. Texas has more eligible black voters than any state in the country. And when we have been on this show imploring black people that they have to vote, this is why the Republicans have taken advantage of people sitting elections out. You're on mute.
During that segment, you all definitely got into the weeds. I want to make sure that we're broadening it out for the audience. So this isn't just Texas, because Missouri is now talking about doing this, including eliminating the Kansas City Black District, which is Congressman Emmanuel Cleaver. Ohio is now talking about doing this. The reason why we need to talk about this more is, first of all, the current maps in Texas are bad. There are several lawsuits claiming that it's unconstitutional already, and that's from the 2020 census, with the very extreme gerrymandering and racial gerrymandering that happened already. So now, on top of extreme, to be honest, actually, after about 15 years of extreme gerrymandering, because after the 2010 census, it was very gerrymandered. And then Texas picked up 2 additional seats off of the back of the increased population of Hispanic voters, Hispanic folks in Texas. But then what happened is that there should have been more Hispanic seats in Texas after 2020. That did not happen, but they became white majority seats. And so now when we're seeing specifically this cracking that's happening, I really want viewers to understand what that means. To put Mark Vesey against Jasmine Crockett, Fort Worth versus Dallas, that's the equivalent of having the representative that represents Gary, Indiana, to represent Chicago, or the representative of Wilmington, Delaware, representing Philadelphia. And so people just really need to understand what this means. It isn't just, it's an overlapping district. For them to go to such extremes, to go over an hour away, and that's without traffic, to try to connect folks along a slivered path in order to make up a new district, this is very intentional. And like Representative Jones mentioned, hey, this must have been AI. And I guarantee you, yes, this was AI with this surgical precision. So now you have you have members in Texas who are racially motivated. Now they're using technology. Now they have a Weakened Voting Rights Act, which means these things can happen. So Representative Jones is right. Unless members of her caucus decide that they're not going to be around for quorum, this new map, which is even worse than the current map, it is going to become law. And so what you and her were talking about is like next steps with the litigation. The issue that we've seen in the past when it comes to litigation around redistricting is the courts, especially if they have a particular ideological bent, they end up kicking the ball down the road or kicking the can down the road until it's now too close to the actual election to do anything about it, which means that it's years of folks not being able to vote for the candidate of their choice. And finally, when it comes to redistricting, one of the most important pieces of it is when you draw a district, it needs to contain a community of interest, meaning if it's a college campus, you shouldn't divide the college campus, which happened to North Carolina A&T when Republicans in North Carolina decided that they wanted to racially gerrymander some of the state house and state senate seats surrounding HBCUs. So we see this happening every 10 years. Yep. What is extremely troubling is now this is happening every couple of years.
Robert?
Look, at this point in time, Roland, is very clear. Democrats have to stop trying to live in the America that they have imagined, that they want. They have to stop imagining we are in this Greek platonic democracy and start getting into the gutter, fighting the same way Republicans are. They've not just started this. This is just the latest iteration of this. They've been trying to do this since after the 2000 census. We've had litigation for the last 25 years over gerrymandering, over cutting up of districts. They've been going after the Voting Rights Act for over a decade at this point in time, chipping away with it bit by bit. And now with the Trump having a 6-3 majority on the Supreme Court, with having control of most of the circuit courts, having control of the Senate, where they can pass through literally his personal attorneys to be circuit court judges and appeals court judges, Democrats have to realize, as was said by the representative, they got to get up out of there. You have to fight the same way that they are fighting. There's no other way to do it. You have to use their weapons against them. And then in democratically controlled states like California and Maryland and other places where you have the opportunity, you're damn right you need to be fighting fire with fire. Enough of all this high-minded moralism that we're just going to do what is correct. Remember when Trump was transitioning to power and all the Democrats made that big show saying, look, this is how we have a dignified transfer of power. We're not like those January 6 people. What good did that do you? Where did that get you? How has that progressed anything? You're letting the people who are fighting the wrong way win. At what point in time do you just say, look, I'm going to get the brass knuckles also, and let's take it to them? I think that's the point we have to be at now. The American people want fighters, as opposed to simply wanting someone who's going to roll over and let Republicans and the extreme MAGA agenda do whatever they feel like. So get out there and do some damn fighting.
Absolutely. All right, folks, we're going to continue to cover this repeatedly. There again, folks are speaking out, they are weighing in, and it's about mobilizing and organizing. So you've got a political fight in the legislature, you've got a legal fight in the courts. While they're doing their part, folk need to be doing their part, mobilizing and organizing in Texas. Listen, let me explain to people what has to happen here, okay? Can Democrats take control of Texas? No. But what's the process? First, you have to break the Republican supermajority. That means identify. Look, there have been a couple of times in the last 8 years where Democrats are about 5 seats away from taking control of the Texas House. You have to break the supermajority. That's first. And then you have to begin to build. You have to completely build and rebuild the state party. Texas used to be an all-Democratic state. It's now all-Republican state. That's because Texas is not organized and mobilized. You've got more than 2 million eligible but unregistered Latino voters in Texas. When Beto O'Rourke ran against Greg Abbott for governor, 75% of voters under the age of 30 did not vote. Hundreds of thousands of black voters not voting as well. And so there's a way to stop Republicans, but sitting out elections is not one of them. Representative Jones, we appreciate you joining us. Thank you so very much. We come back, we're going to talk Medicaid and how Republicans are trying to attack that next. Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network.
This week on The Other Side of Change.
Zohran Mamdani, the New York City mayoral race, and this progressive wave that has sent such a shockwave through all of New York City and really the rest of the country. Jamal Bowman is going to help us understand what this mayoral election means and how we make sure that it translates across the nation.
Can you imagine national Democrats like identifying themselves as having flavor or riz or swag? Like, absolutely not, right? So hopefully the city does what it can in November to help resurrect this dying party and honestly just resurrect our democracy.
Only on The Other Side of Change on the Black Star Network.
On the next A Balanced Life with me, Dr. Jackie, we're talking about leveling up, or to put it another way, living your very best life. How to take a bold step forward that'll rock your world.
Leveling up is different for everybody. You know, I think we fall into this trap, which often gets us stuck because we're looking at someone else's level up journey, what leveling up means to them. For some, it might be a business venture. For some, it might be a relationship situation, but it's different for everybody.
It's all a part of A Balanced Life. That's next on Black Star Network.
Next on the Black Table with me, Greg Carr. Democracy in the United States is under siege. On this list of bad actors, it's easy to point out the Donald Trumps, the Marjorie Taylor Greens, or even the United States Supreme Court as the primary villains. But as David Pepper, author, scholar, and former politician himself says, there's another factor that trumps them all and resides much closer to many of our homes. His book is Laboratories of Autocracy, a wake-up call from behind the lines.
So these state houses get hijacked by the far right, then they gerrymander, they suppress the opposition, and that allows them to legislate in a way that doesn't reflect the people of that state.
David Pepper joins us on the next Black Table, here on the Black Star Network.
On the next Get Wealthy with me, Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, Black Americans have 1/10 the wealth of their white counterparts. But how did we get here? It's a huge gap. Well, that's why we need to know the history and what we need to do to turn our income into wealth. Financial author and journalist Rodney Brooks joins us to tell us exactly what we need to do to achieve financial success.
You can't talk about why we are, as Black people, where we are, unless you talk about how we got here.
Bridging the Gap and Getting Wealthy, only on Black Star Network.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol, we've seen shooting.
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate Black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
This week on the other side of change.
Zohran Mamdani, the New York City mayoral race, and this progressive wave that has sent such a shockwave through all of New York City and really the rest of the country. Emil Bove is going to help us understand what this mayoral election means and how we make sure that it translates across the nation.
Can you imagine national Democrats like identifying themselves as having flavor or riz or swag? Like, absolutely not, right? So hopefully the city does what it can in November to help resurrect this dying party and honestly just resurrect our democracy.
Only on the other side of change on the Black Star Network.
What's good, y'all? This is Doug E. Fresh, and you're watching my brother Roland Martin Unfiltered as we go a little something like this. Hit it. It's real.
60 years ago, President Lyndon B. Johnson signed into law Medicaid, of course, providing a safety net for individuals looking for health care in this country. Republicans want to endanger that. We're seeing these actions take place right now with Trump's signature of that gross bill that he signed on July 4th. Now, what's crazy about this, Republicans keep lying. They lie to themselves and they lie to their voters. They consistently say, oh no, this is not a problem. We're not sitting here. Cutting Medicaid. And in fact, that's exactly what they're doing. It's happening over and over and over again. Now, what's even crazier is that Republicans in these red states, they're the ones with the voters who have the most serious problems. Like, I love these folks in Kentucky who have been saying repeatedly, oh, don't you touch my Affordable Care Act, but get rid of that Obamacare. Oh, we need to go ahead and cut these things. We need to cut health care, but then they're the ones who need it the most. It doesn't make any sense. It literally makes no sense whatsoever. So what you're seeing are Republicans who are consistently and repeatedly voting against their own interest. They're killing their own people. That's what they're doing. We talk about Medicaid. We're talking about people who literally depend on this to save their lives. We talk about North Carolina. When they resisted Medicaid expansion, you know what happened? Rural hospitals shut down. Folks had to travel 50, 60 miles to get care. Folks who actually died. These things are actually real. So let's unpack this and let's talk about it. Chiquita Brooks LaShore, the former administrator of the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, joins us right now. And we're also going to be joined by Roger Mitchell, Jr., President of the National Medical Association. Chiquita, I want to start with you first. I mean, it is, when this conversation is had, it's a process conversation. It's a Washington, D.C. process conversation where what I keep saying is like, no, this is a healthcare conversation and you have to put a face on it. And it's stunning to me to see individuals who literally are voting against the interests of their own constituents.
It's been incredibly painful, and I'm really glad that you started with saying people are talking about this as though it's a process. I have spent the last couple of months talking to people across the country about what this is going to mean to them. People have been in tears. People have called in and said, my kid is covered by Medicaid. My kid has XYZ conditions. I have multiple sclerosis. I have a disability and I'm going to lose access to my bipolar medications. I am a doctor who takes care of patients. What is this going to mean for my clinic? What is this going to mean to my hospital? This is millions of people's lives and livelihoods that are at stake with this bill, and it is really, I would call it immoral, just what this bill is going to mean to our country.
Well, when you listen to people who claim to be pro-life, but they support this bill, that's a bunch of crap. When we talk about the most, what are the most affected states? We're talking about 17 million people. What are the top 5 or so states most impacted?
You know, I would say all of them are, and in different ways. You are right to say that in many of the red states, this is going to be devastating. And I will just take a moment to back up a little bit about what was going on before this bill passed. We had healthcare problems in our country before this legislation passed, particularly in rural areas. And COVID really hurt a lot of hospitals across this country. I spent a lot of time talking to people, and Medicaid and Medicare prop up most of the rural hospitals in this country. And so you mentioned how North Carolina, before it had expansion, had hospital issues. So did Georgia. So does Mississippi and Alabama. And that's before this bill passed. So let's see, what does this bill do? It hurts red states who disproportionately have Medicaid people. But to the blue states, this bill targeted them. And so there are a whole bunch of provisions that don't say New York and California in them, but the provisions themselves are going to cut the ability of those states to cover the people that they are legally allowed to cover if they choose to with their own dollars. It is hampering those states that did take the expansion and phasing their dollars down and hampering their ability to raise revenues to pay for Medicaid. So that's what I would say. Yes, a lot of the red states are hurt, but the blue states are too.
Dr. Mitchell, I want to go to you because there is a direct impact on doctors, nurses. I remember when the entire Louisiana healthcare system, they were imploring Speaker Mike Johnson, do not do this. You're going to put our system in jeopardy. He totally ignored them. And so explain to folk what will be the impact directly on doctors when it comes to these Medicaid cuts.
Well, we know that, and good evening, and it's good to be here with you, and it's good to see Chiquita, who is really our Medicaid, administrator. We say that every time we see her. Physicians get paid. We receive dollars through insurance, and one of the biggest insurance providers, particularly for physicians that have made a decision to do the work in communities that are disenfranchised or disinherited, rural communities, urban communities, communities in the poor, those that treat disabled patients, those physicians that treat our pediatricians, those that are geriatricians and treat our oldest of our individuals, those physicians are going to be greatly impacted, because now you're talking about treating patients that don't have access to the insurance to pay for their care. So that is one set of physicians. But then there's a whole group of physicians that are in hospitals, that are hospitalists, that are intensivists, that are emergency room physicians. We know that these types of cuts, these types of changes are going to lead to congestion within our emergency departments. It has to, and we're going to guard against it, but it has the potential to impact quality of care, because long wait times impacts quality of care, and then congested emergency departments impact quality of care. And so the way that you deal with and ensure that healthcare costs come down is have more healthier people, not cutting access to people, because individuals will now seek care, but they'll seek care when they no longer can stand the fact that they're suffering from that disease or injury. So that means that care is going to be more severe. That disease or injury is going to be more severe, and they're going to come to care much later. And so it's going to be more expensive to deliver that care. And now the government is saying, well, that subsidy is no longer going to be available for the people that most need it. So the physicians are at the front lines of having to provide this care at no cost and at low cost, and so it's going to be a problem for our physician groups.
But again, it's not just people are sick. This is going to cause folks to die. I mean, this is it's a fact. We've already seen this. When rural hospitals shut down, it was people who experienced medical emergencies who had to travel further. I mean, every single minute was precious and people died.
Absolutely. I mean, there are parts of this country right now where people have to travel for an hour or two to get to a doctor, and weather can make all the difference. I drove in Colorado a couple of years ago when I was CMS administrator. They told me on my way to a hospital, they told me that road's out one every 3 days of the year. So you think about what happens when one of these hospitals shuts down. This is maternal health in our country. How quickly can you get to a OBGYN to deliver your baby? It's certainly, you have a heart attack, it's all of us. And so when we think about, there is an estimate on the bill that over 300 hospitals will close as a result of this legislation. We already have seen hospitals talking about the impact of these cuts. And not only, are we hearing about closing, but also decisions changing about whether or not they're going to open a wing. These choices hospitals have already been on a razor-thin margin in much of our country.
And Doc, is that just the hospitals? We talk about nursing homes as well.
That's right. I mean, nursing homes are impacted because many of our older patients that are dual eligible, these are individuals that are both getting Medicaid and Medicare, are in our nursing homes. There's provisions in our nursing homes that deal with staffing levels and ensure that there's no real criteria for staffing levels to ensure that our patients in nursing homes get the care that they need. Roland, this is a big issue. Now 60 years, and I know that we're having this conversation on 60 years since this Medicaid and Medicare were passed in the Social Security amendments. We don't need this to be rolled back. I'm a forensic pathologist, and I often say that I see failed policy on my autopsy table, and that's the truth. I mean, you just talked about the death. It is the medical examiner's offices and the morgues that are going to be telling the story about the deaths that happen in this country. And I happen to be a hospital president as well in a safety net hospital, Howard University Hospital, Freedman's Hospital to begin with. And, you know, we are having the conversations. How do we deal with the cuts? What types of outreach are we do to individuals that we know are going to be just purged from the rolls because they have not kept up with their 6 months re-up on their Medicaid, right? So this becomes a penalizing people for not being able to meet a deadline, not necessarily ensuring that people that have care. And so we have to develop a whole outreach initiative to ensure that our patients, which are the majority Medicaid patients and Medicare patients, have the necessary reminders, have the necessary technical support to be able to fill out the paperwork so that they don't lose eligibility when they are actually eligible. And so there's a lot of tricks in this bag that we have to keep our eye on. The good news, if there's any good news, that many of these provisions don't hit until 27 and 28. So, you know, several that are hitting now that we have to watch, but there's some that we have some time. And so there's work that can happen now, particularly in the voting booth, to make sure that that these types of changes don't actually take hold.
Questions from my panel. First up, Rebecca.
Hey, Dr. Mitchell, good to see you. Congratulations on becoming the president of the National Medical Association. You mentioned that people have to become healthier. And currently, most medical schools don't require students to take a nutrition course during their didactic years. Should there be a push for nutrition to be included in medical curriculum?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm glad you brought that out. The National Medical Association, actually one of my pillars is surrounding food as medicine. Here at Howard University College of Medicine, we have our wellness vice dean, who is a food as medicine expert. Food as medicine and this type of nutritional health is coming in to medicine now. So I think it's critically important to teach nutrition, to teach healthy living. But one of the things that Chiquita will tell you is that we were moving down this road towards value-based care. We were moving down this road towards really incentivizing prevention and screening and making sure that people were getting into care early. And that's really what I'm talking about, not necessarily switching the onus onto the patient, but really incentivizing both the patient and the provider to say, hey, listen, you need to get people in your cluster of patients. You need to make sure that you're checking on whether or not they're checking their cholesterol and their blood pressure, checking their prostate, checking and getting their regular mammograms. So if we're going to find disease, let's find it early and be able to treat it early before it becomes life-threatening and before it becomes extremely, extremely expensive. And so nutrition and food as medicine in the curriculum is important, but making sure that we understand value-based care also should be in the curriculum as well.
Robert?
And for both of you, thank you so much for the work that you do and the information you provide. A few weeks ago, when the big brutal lie, the bill was going through, I found that there was a information gap between the folks who knew and understood what was going on and then everybody else. Even if you looked on CNN the day the bill was being voted on one screen, half of the screen they had the vote, on the other half they had the Diddy trial. What do you think has to happen for us to be able to explain this information to average people so that, one, they can understand what's going on with it, the fact that many of these cuts are backloaded, so they're not going to come in place until after the 2026 election, and they need to make provisions in the meantime for what that will mean for them, but then also how they can fight back against this and politically and understand that this is not the time for apathy, but they are literally cutting healthcare from 15 to 20 million people, and there's not a lot we can do about it unless we get out and vote in the next election.
Well, I'm so glad you raised this, because we all are struggling with the fact that once people knew was in the legislation, they overwhelmingly rejected what was going on in terms of the healthcare provisions, but awareness was really low. I think what we all need to do moving forward is make sure that people are really aware of what is in this bill. And I think one of the challenges is that we had a debate on healthcare during the first Trump administration. It was Affordable Care Act, repeal and replace. People understood very clearly that Republicans wanted to take Medicaid and ACA coverage from you. But this one was really more challenging. There are dozens of provisions, some of which are very detailed and hard to explain. But some of these provisions are going to take place this fall. And I want to make sure that people know that if they start to see what we expect, which are 20% increases in premiums for people who are on Affordable Care Act coverage, which means hundreds of dollars for some people, thousands of dollars that they will pay more this fall. We need to make sure people know that is because of this bill and the decisions that are being made by this administration.
Yeah, and I'll just add to Dr. Brooks LaShore's comments. It's really trusted messengers like we have here on Roland Martin and the panel to really bring these issues to the forefront. It is, we're spending a lot of time on Epstein and a lot of time on the, really the sensationalized issues when this is happening right now and this is going to affect lives. And I think that the more conversations that we can have about this, the nuances, really creating a volunteer pool of individuals that are going to help people understanding that part of that work requirement is 80 hours for every month. How do we as community develop and ensure that everyone has documented 80 hours if indeed that work requirement ends up going through, right? And so we can use that volunteer hours to teach the issues surrounding Medicaid and make sure that the individuals don't fall off the rolls that don't have to, and then make sure that people become eligible. There's a lot of education that we need to do. And that's why on the 60th anniversary of Medicaid and Medicare being signed into law, you having time to have this conversation is extremely important, but one time is not going to do it. We need to be constantly having conversations, and the NMA, obviously is standing by to be able to be that trusted messenger for our community.
A final comment.
Just to say how, you were showing pictures of the presidents, Truman and LBJ, when they were signing the Medicare and Medicaid becoming into law. It really changed our country. And we need to continue to move forward in our trajectory of getting more people covered and making sure they have access to better care. This bill pulls us back, and we need to make changes so that we don't move backwards.
All right, then. We surely appreciate it. Gita, thanks a lot. Doc, thanks a lot as well. Keep up the fight.
Thank you.
Folks, going to a break. We come back. We're going to go live to Moral Mondays, Repairs of the Breach. They're holding one of their training sessions. We're going to go live to them, show you some of what was happening there with Bishop William Barber and Repairs of the Breach of the Poor People's Campaign. We also got lots more we want to break down and talk about in the world of news and politics. Folks, you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Support the work that we do. Join our Bring the Funk fan club. The goal is to get 20,000 our fans contributing on average $50 each a year. As far as the 19 cents a month, 13 cents a day, you go to support this show. Also, the other shows here on the Black Star Network. If you want to contribute via Cash App, use the Stripe QR code. You see it right here. Click the Cash App button to continue. Checks and money orders, make them payable to Roland Martin Unfiltered, P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 2003 7-0196. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle, Roland at RolandSMartin.com, Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Be sure to download the Black Star Network app, Apple phone, Android phone, Apple TV, Android TV, Roku, Amazon Fire TV, Xbox One, Samsung Smart TV. And of course, be sure to get our swag. If you want our shirts and all our good stuff, you can get that stuff as well. Shop BlackStarNetwork.com. We'll be right back.
Next on the Black Table with me, Greg Carr. Democracy in the United States is under siege. On this list of bad actors, it's easy to point out the Donald Trumps, the Marjorie Taylor Greens, or even the United States Supreme Court as the primary villains. But as David Pepper, author, scholar, and former politician himself says, there's another factor that trumps them all and resides much closer to many of our homes. His book is Laboratories of Autocracy, a wake-up call from behind the lines.
So these state houses get hijacked by the far right, then they gerrymander, they suppress the opposition, and that allows them to legislate in a way that doesn't reflect the people of that state.
David Pepper joins us on the next Black Table, here on the Black Star Network.
This week on the other side of change.
Zohran Mamdani, the New York City mayoral race, and this progressive wave that has sent such a shockwave through all of New York City and really the rest of the country. Emil Bove is going to help us understand what this mayoral election means and how we make sure that it translates across the nation.
Can you imagine national Democrats like identifying themselves as having flavor or riz or swag? Like, absolutely not, right? So hopefully the city does what it can in November to help resurrect this dying party and honestly just resurrect our democracy.
Only on the other side of change on the Black Star Network.
On the next Get Wealthy with me, Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, Black Americans have 1/10 the wealth of their white counterparts. But how did we get here? It's a huge gap. Well, that's why we need to know the history and what we need to do to turn our income into wealth. Financial author and journalist Rodney Brooks joins us to tell us exactly what we need to do to achieve financial success.
You can't talk about why we are, as Black people, where we are, unless you talk about how we got here.
Bridging the gap and getting wealthy, only on Black Star Network.
On a next, A Balanced Life with me, Dr. Jackie, we're talking about leveling up, or to put it another way, living your very best life. How to take a bold step forward that'll rock your world.
Leveling up is different for everybody. You know, I think we fall into this trap, which often gets us stuck because we're looking at someone else's level up journey, what leveling up means to them. For some, it might be a business venture. For some, it might be a relationship situation, but it's different for everybody.
It's all a part of A Balanced Life. That's next on Black Star Network.
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol, we've seen
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate Black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
Hi, everybody. I'm Kim Coles.
Hey, I'm Donnie Simpson.
Yo, it's your man Deion Cole from Blackish, and you watch
Roland Martin, Unfiltered.
Folks, repairers of the breach of the Poor People's Campaign continue their advocacy, their teaching, and their training right now. Let's go live to Bishop William Barber for one of their sessions.
The theme tonight is organize. How kind of organizing must we do in times of oppression? And we want to go from macro to micro. I'm going to use your pastor. He's an economist. So macro is the big up here. And then by the time we finish, I want to talk about power building here. Because really, you can't deal with here unless you build power from here. All great movements began locally. It was not the national bus boycott. It was the Montgomery bus boycott. That's how it started. It was the Greensboro sit-ins. It was whatever was in Charlotte. And you get breakthroughs. What you do is you nationalize local movements. You nationalize local movements. Now, I'm going to give you a scripture because we are in Bible study. Hannah, you grab Acts chapter 2, and I'm going to call on you in a second. What we're going to look at tonight first is the context in which we are operating in right now. And then we're going to talk about 4 aspects of what we call fusion or moral, M-O-R-A-L, fusion, F-U-S-I-O-N, organizing, fusion organizing, fusion organizing, moral fusion organizing, M-F-O, moral fusion organizing. And we want to talk about what the components are. Now, I will tell you that moral fusion organizing, when I teach each one of the 4 points, is an entire class at Yale, a 3-hour class. So I can't do the whole, but this is to entice you so that you'll go to the website and continue to study. And by the way, if you're really interested in public policy and public theology, whether you're a layperson or a pastor or a preacher or neither of the one, we offer a free course at Yale. All you have to do is go now to the Center for Public Theology and Public Policy at Yale University, and you can take at your own speed. At your own speed, it's right there for you. I just want to mention that. So in fusion, in moral fusion organizing, the first thing that you have to do is called moral, you got to do a moral assessment, a moral analysis. Say that with me, analysis. If you're thinking about really building a movement that's going to make a difference, you don't just go grab a sign and start and don't even know really what it's about. You just grab, somebody told me hold this sign. Or you just go to one event and that's all you do. The first thing you do, if you're going to stick in it, if you're going to really make change, you have to do an analysis of what is the political atmosphere, what's going on, what is the issue, why is it an issue, who does it impact, right? Why should the church be involved anyway? But see, because from a moral religious standpoint, hey, Sangrita, I just want y'all to know Sangrita, she's back there. She's been handing out everything. From a moral standpoint, from a righteousness standpoint, that's a word that you see in the Bible, the church doesn't stand up for or against an issue because it's a Democratic issue, a Republican issue, because one of the members on the deacon board wants it, because one of the a powerful family in the church wants it, because the pastor just wants it. We have to have a grid, something that guides us to say we get involved in this issue. And for the church, if I can narrow it quickly, for us, It's Luke chapter 4, verses 18 through 19, and Matthew 25, and Isaiah chapter 10, that are the three scriptural grids that we put on top of any issue to even decide if we ought to be involved. And I say that your pastor's been doing this for 30 years, so it's not new to you. But why are we even engaged in it? Because if the church is going to be involved in the issue in the public square, we're not supposed to sound like everybody else. Even if if you're just a moral movement, say it's not necessarily from the church, but you're saying, I'm here because it's a moral issue. Well, what makes it a moral issue? How do you determine that it's moral? So in our work, we say we use our deepest religious values and our deepest constitutional values, right? Now, on the religious values side, from a scriptural standpoint, Isaiah 10 says, woe unto those who legislate evil and rob the poor of their rights and make women and children pray, P-R-E-Y. So if an issue comes up in the community, I'm going to take that scripture and lay it up there and say, let's see if this is legislating evil. And how do I know if it's legislating evil? Does it make women and children pray, P-R-E-Y? Does it hurt women and children? Does it take their lives? Is the issue in the community people pushing it because they know they can get away with it because it's feeding on the least of these? And does it steal the rights of the poor? Does it hurt the poor? The poor have a right not to be violated. The poor have a right, it's a God right, not to be oppressed, not to be kicked, right? Yesterday and not the other day in the General Assembly, they vetoed a bill that was challenging Duke power. And some of the people on the floor said, well, let's don't worry about the fact that how it's going to hurt the poor. At least North Carolina is going to make more money. Now, see, if I was going to speak on that issue as a pastor, and my members were going to go, we wouldn't say we're here because the Democrats disagree with that issue. We're here because the Republicans support it. No, we're here because that bill legislates evil. How do I know? Because it robs the poor of their rights. And it makes women and children pray. You know what pray is? Pray is something you eat, you catch, you kill, you destroy. Not P-R-A-Y like this, but P-R-E-Y. And anytime people in power will pray, P-R-A-Y, at the beginning of their commissioners meeting, their city council meeting, their legislative meeting, and then after they P-R-A-Y, they pass bills that P-R-E-Y, there ought to be a moral outcry from the church, from the moral voices of the community. The other scripture is Luke chapter 4, verse 18, which is Jesus' first sermon after his beginning of his public ministry. And Jesus lays out a category of people that he says, this is the ethical framework and focus of the Holy Spirit. That the Holy Spirit is not just what makes you clap your hand and pat your feet. The Holy Spirit actually has an ethical agenda. An ethical agenda, right? That's why the slaves used to say, everybody talking about heaven ain't going there, because they watched people go to church, but they didn't follow the ethical agenda of the scripture. And Jesus says, the Spirit of the Lord is upon me. Upon me. In other words, it's the agenda from above. It comes down from a higher place. It is that which is born not of us, but born of God, who has a right to set the agenda for God's church, for God's people. The Spirit of the Lord is upon us, preach good news to the poor, for he hath anointed me. And anointed, there's interesting, that word anointing in the Old Testament, when that same scripture comes out of Isaiah 61, there were two words for anointing. One word for anointing meant things you anoint to sit in the temple, like you anoint the pulpit, or you anoint the lavers that they use to baptize people, or you anoint that. That was a kind of anointing. But the particular word for anointing in Isaiah 61, from which Luke 4:18 Jesus is quoting, it is a word which literally means anointed to show uncommon grace in a mean world. It literally means anointed to be empowered to do what you can't do in your own strength. It means that's moshach is the word in Hebrew. It literally means to be anointed in such a way that you have to speak to the death of our times. Whatever is killing folk, I'm anointed from God to speak to that and challenge it. Even if it doesn't change, speak to it. And then it gives the categories. What is it that you're supposed to speak to? First thing is poverty. Good news to the poor. And the word there for poor is patokos, P-T-C-H-O-S, which in Greek means people who've been made poor by policy. There are three other words for poor. One of them is you just lazy. That's not what the word Jesus uses. Another word is poor because you may have just happened to become poor because of an uncertain sickness. But the poor in Luke 4:18 is when you are poor and low wage because policies make it so. And the anointing of God says the church has to challenge that. And then there are other categories. It says healing to the brokenhearted. And the word for healing there has two meanings. It means to heal miraculously, like by laying on of hands or anointing with oil and God heal. But the word also means to remove that which is making people sick in the first place. So to heal the brokenhearted means people's hearts get broken not by mysterious people, but by other people and politics. That's how folks' hearts get broken. So he says, preach good news to the poor, healing to the brokenhearted, recovery of sight to the blind. Blind there meaning blinded to love, blinded to justice, blinded by the oppressive systems of the world. Recovery of sight to the blind. And then it goes on to say, and then at the end it says, and to declare the acceptable year of the Lord, which literally means to preach that the year of Jubilee is now and that God is saying to every political system and power system, if you are selective in who you care for, you are outside of the will of God. Because God's calling and the anointing is to declare the acceptable year. So why would First Baptist go down to City Hall, for instance, and challenge an issue? If City Hall was passing things that was saying, this community matters, but these folk don't. These folk matter, but these people don't. Right. Transit tax, for instance. Right. So if folk are saying that these folk are, this is the accepted crowd, but this is not. Any time society's power structure is limiting justice and limiting grace to certain groups, Luke 4:18 says the anointing of God calls us to challenge that. And then Matthew 25 is a scripture we all have heard quoted. We all amen it. But sometimes we miss it. When Jesus said, he said, and I will say to the nations, governments. A lot of times we have taken that as an individual text. He says, but he said, no, I will say to the nation, when I was hungry, did you? When I was naked, did you? When I was sick, did you? When I was in prison, did you? Inasmuch as you've done it unto the least of these, you've done. So a church's public platform has to ask this question: who are the hungry? Who are the naked? Who are the in prison? Who are the least of these in the community? Because we are required to challenge the community that if you are passing policies that hurt the sick, the imprisoned, the hungry, and the least of these, then those policies are contrary to God's will. And so the first step of a congregation organizing around how it's going to, where it's going to stand is to take, and it doesn't have to be those three scriptures, because there are 2,000 scriptures in the Bible that speak to the issue of how we stand in relationship to the poor, the least of these, and those on the margin. By the way, I thought I'd mention that. You can't, if you take all those scriptures and cut them out of the Bible falls apart. Bible, literally, it is no more Bible. It's actually how I opened my class at Yale. When I opened my class at Yale, I come in with a cellophane bag full of all the scriptures that talk about justice, love, and mercy, and I dump it on the table, and then I show them the Bible it came out of. And say, now, is this your ministry? Is this how you're going to preach? You're going to preach with a holy Bible? Not holy, H-O-L-Y, but holy, the other way. Right? So, but you have to have and decide, this is the grid that we're going to analyze where we stand on the issue. And pastors like yours does has a responsibility to say, I'm not just standing against this issue because I don't like it or I don't like the people who pushing it. I'm standing because we're required by the scripture and by the anointing of the Spirit. And so if we don't do it, we're going to be held accountable as a church. And if not now, we're going to be held accountable when we face God. But the problem is, a lot of times we're going to be held accountable now because if we don't do it, I guarantee it's going to hurt people in your congregation that you call brother and sister. Fusion. Now, the other thing we do with fusion is the constitutional side. The Constitution of these United States, well, let me do North Carolina. Let me come a little bit macro. In 1868, two pastors helped rewrite the North Carolina State Constitution after the end of slavery. Two pastors. One was a white pastor who had come here from Ohio, and another was J.W. Hood, who later became the president of Livingstone and the bishop of the AME Zion Church. And they came together and they helped rewrite the Constitution of North Carolina. And in the preamble, they set out some foundational principles. Say that, foundational principles. And this is what they wrote. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all persons, now you know the federal stuff doesn't say person, it says all men. But when these two preachers helped rewrite the North Carolina Constitution post-slavery, they took out men and inserted person because they knew that God was concerned about all people regardless of their gender. We hold these truths to be self-evident that all persons are created equal, endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, among which are life, liberty, what? Now that's the federal. But when two preachers trying to lay down principles that would keep us from going back to slavery, they added something. We hold these truths to be self-evident that all persons are created equal, endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, among which are life, liberty, the enjoyment of the fruit of their own labor, and the pursuit of happiness. So what they said, Rick, well, Pastor, is that anything that undermines your ability to enjoy the fruit of your own labor is pseudo-slavery. And so from a constitutional right perspective, why do I fight for living wages? Why does the church? Because it violates the ability of people to enjoy the fruit of their own labor. It makes people work at slave and poverty wages. Why do I challenge things that take money out of the pockets of the least of these? Because it violates the ability for them to, not only is it anti what God said about the poor, but from a constitutional basis, it also violates. Y'all with me? Then.
All right, folks, we're going to restream all of that right here on the Black Star Network. But I want to go to Rebecca and Robert here. Robert, I'll start with you. Something Reverend said there, Bishop said there, that you know, I talk a lot all the time in my speeches as well, is that if we're talking about how do we mobilize and organize people, we have to go micro, macro, not macro, micro. And that so many people want to focus on big initiatives, large initiatives, national initiatives. But what we're seeing in Texas, what we're seeing in all these other places is what happens when you have state boards of elections, when you have local elections, you have state reps, state senate, gubernatorial, the state legislatures, state Supreme Court, whatever. And I think, too often that's what the focus has been. And so what I keep saying to people, think small. Small, if all of a sudden 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 100, all of a sudden you now take 100, now do that in 10 different places, that's 1,000 votes. And so we have to break this thing down in bite-sized ways for people to actually accept this, to understand they can actually change politics, but it has to be micro a start first. You're muted. You're muted. Still muted. All right, let's do this here. We're going to go to Rebecca, then we're going to come back to Robert. Rebecca, go ahead.
I know it's important for people to understand that all politics is local and that it's very important to connect with what's happening in people's communities with what in turns happen at the ballot box. I'm listening to the Reverend Dr. Barber. It also made me think of the previous segment when we were talking about Medicaid and Medicare getting ready to celebrate its 60th anniversary, and knowing that next week is the 60th anniversary of the Voting Rights Act. And it's just so interesting now, all of the things that are intersected around 60 years ago, and what the fight for civil rights, what the local fight, and then what became the national fight. One thing that we can understand is that whether it's our individual health at the micro level is determined by macro health of this country, which is at the ballot box.
Robert, we have you now.
Yeah, and Roland, just kind of piggybacking off of what Rebecca said, we absolutely took our finger off the trigger. We took our eye off the ball after 2008, and that's when the Democratic Party decided that they would invest everything on the federal level. They would send everything to Obama for America. It was so important to keep the presidency, to keep the Senate, that they forgot about grassroots efforts. After that, for the next decade or so, we lost 1,044 races on the state and local level after Obama came to power, because they stopped investing in those little races. And that's how they built this MAGA movement from the ground up in the course of about 10 years, which means that on this outside of that, we can do the exact same thing. For the last few weeks, I've been going through the MLK files since they came out, just seeing what they released to what we can find. And I want more people to start reading through and understanding what people were doing 60 and 70 years ago in church basements, with telephones and without the internet, meeting individuals in PTA halls, talking to your neighbors. They were able to literally change the entire arc of the moral universe just by connecting on those small levels with the people around them and deciding that enough was enough. If they can do that, there's no excuse for our generation to drop the ball and let things roll backwards on our watch, simply because we did not put the work in to organize people on the ground.
Absolutely, and those were decisions that actually made, and I remember 3 individuals, Paul Bagaya, James Carville, Rahm Emanuel, did not want Howard Dean to remain as DNC chair because they wanted to focus on national races, and they convinced Obama to get rid of him when Dean kept talking about a 50-state strategy. That, to me, was an absolutely dumb decision by President Obama to do that. You're absolutely right. Everything about being about Obama for America had also just basically caused the DNC to be completely gutted. And so you saw the results of that. And so, but what I want our people to understand is what I'm talking about here is not a political party. What I'm talking about is black grassroots. What we can do to mobilize and organize our community and ourselves. And I'm telling you, as long as we keep sitting out elections, we are making MAGA's job easy. And we should be making their job hard. They are attacking black people. They are attacking the black agenda. They want to defund black America politically and economically. And for all of y'all people, and I'm going to say it right now, and I don't care, y'all need to stop listening to Umar Johnson. Y'all need to stop listening to Tariq Nasheed. Y'all need to stop listening to all of these fools, the Boyce Watkins of the world, all of them, who tell you voting doesn't matter, because they're liars. because you are seeing what happens when people do vote. And you're seeing public policy. You're seeing right now, because of Donald Trump holding the levers of power, having the White House, the House, and the Senate, they are extorting $500 million from Harvard, $200 million from Columbia. They're now targeting UCLA and others. They're using civil rights laws against black people. Now, some of y'all might say, well, that's Harvard, that's Columbia, that's UCLA, but they're targeting the black people in Lowndes County who had sewage in their lines, sewage in their yards. They're targeting the HUD lawsuits as well. They're letting millionaires, the guy with Fat Burger gave a big donation, Donald Trump, they canceled the $47 million lawsuit against him. These things are happening before our very eyes. So anybody black, and I'm going to say this before I go, because I go to break, come to my next story. You have never seen white folk say, don't vote. You don't get nothing for that. So why in the hell would you listen to somebody black telling you that? Every single thing in our society, I don't care whether y'all like it or not, impacts by politics. Take your pick. Take your pick. Your interest rates on your car in your house, that's politics. That's the Fed. The whole deal with credit reports, yep, politics. I can go on and on and on. So we would be stupid to listen to anybody who tells us, don't vote. I'm not saying that is the be-all to end-all, but I can tell you this here. We're seeing right now what happens when evil is in control of our politics. And he's going to be there for at least the next 3.5 years. You better buckle up because it's real. Got to go to the break. We come back. We're going to talk with the owner of a Chicago food company. They, of course, have been in business for more than 2 decades. They're canned good company. We're going to talk about the Target boycott, how it impacts them, but also the work that they have to try to build and grow the business in this age, which makes it a lot difficult for a lot of black-owned businesses to get financing, but also to be able to get their products on store shelves. You're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered right here on the Black Star Network.
This week on the other side of change.
Zohran Mamdani, the New York City mayoral race, and this progressive wave that has sent such a shockwave through all of New York City and really the rest of the country. Emil Bove is going to help us understand what this mayoral election means and how we make sure that it translates across the nation.
Can you imagine national Democrats like identifying themselves as having flavor or riz or swag? Like, absolutely not, right? So hopefully the city does what it can in November to help resurrect this dying party and honestly just resurrect our democracy.
Only on the other side of change on the Black Star Network.
Next on the Black Table with me, Greg Carr. Democracy in the United States is under siege. On this list of bad actors, it's easy to point out the Donald Trumps, the Marjorie Taylor Greens, or even the United States Supreme Court as the primary villains. But as David Pepper, author, scholar, and former politician himself says, there's another factor that trumps them all and resides much closer to many of our homes. His book is Laboratories of Autocracy, a wake-up call from behind the lines.
So these state houses get hijacked by the far right, then they gerrymander, they suppress the opposition, and that allows them to legislate in a way that doesn't reflect the people of that state.
David Pepper joins us on the next Black Table, here on the Black Star Network.
Hello, I'm Isaac Hayes III, founder and CEO of Fanbase. Listen to what I'm about to tell you. The window to invest in Fanbase is closing. We've raised over $10.6 million of our $17 million goal. That means there's room for less than 6,370 people to invest in Fanbase for the average amount. The minimum to invest in Fanbase right now is $399. That makes you an owner in Fanbase today. Go to startengine.com/fanbase to invest. Why? Because current social apps have taken advantage of users for far too long, with content suppression, shadow banning, harmful racist content, and no real tools for monetization and equity. Fanbase has over 1.4 million users and counting, allowing anyone to reach all their following and monetize their content from day one. Social media is the new TV, and whoever owns the apps that distribute that content have the opportunity to own potential billion-dollar companies. While big platforms with uncertain futures are failing to serve their users, Fanbase is stepping up to fill the gap. Don't wait until it's too late. Invest now, invest for yourself and your future. Go to startengine.com/fanbase and own the next generation of social media.
On the next A Balanced Life with me, Dr. Jackie, we're talking about leveling up, or to put it another way, living your very best life. How to take a bold step forward that'll rock your world.
Leveling up is different for everybody. You know, I think we fall into this trap, which often gets us stuck because we're looking at someone else's level up journey, what leveling up means to them. For some, it might be a business venture. For some, it might be a relationship situation, but it's different for everybody.
It's all a part of A Balanced Life. That's next on Black Star Network.
What's up, everybody? It's your girl, Latasha from the A.
And you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
All right, folks, in our marketplace segment, we focus on black-owned businesses, and we don't just talk about, the great things, but the good, the bad, the ugly, all that good stuff that comes with it. And how do you build and grow businesses? You always hear me talk about capacity, how we have to build capacity, how we have to be able to continue the businesses to grow. Because what often happens is an owner will start something, and it's, in a lot of cases, the children don't take over the business to continue to actually grow that business. Well, what we have out of Chicago, Good Foods, a canned good company that was started a couple of decades ago. Now, the CEO is Andrew Johnson. He's the second generation CEO, owner of Good Foods. And he joins us right now. Andrew, glad to have you here. So first off, for folks who don't know, they may have been in the stores, they may have seen the products. How did Good Foods start?
So I'll sum up 2 decades in about a minute. But my father started this in 2003, was a corporate pharma rep and worked at Abbott 35 years. And at a certain point he said, hey, I want to start my own food business. I have the connections. And so Good Foods was really started out of frustration of corporate America, but also in a necessity to provide canned goods and products that we can afford, that are nutritional, and available to the community. And so we really started in the food deserts of Chicago, in the WIC centers. There's a very unique opportunity and situation there where they have grocery centers only catered to WIC participants. And so we call it the golden age of Good Foods. That was, when my dad, we had this contract. So he, right off the bat, won this contract to supply all the centers. So let's imagine if you go into a Kroger or a Walmart and everything is coming directly through us. We were doing frozen, canned, baby food, anything you see in the grocery store, even dairy, fresh produce. And so really government sector distribution company, and then sort of over time we transitioned into retail. Local company in Chicago called Jewel Osco, which is like Albertsons, found out about us and found out about the family story, the business, and asked us to start selling to them. So it sort of went from like couple hundred stores in Illinois, then we expanded into Indiana, and kind of moving along really more in the government sector, and then sort of a little bit of retail, and then that pandemic hit, man, as you remember, and we just kind of took off, just timing, never giving up, being in the right place, and we sold a year's worth of supply in about 30 days.
Wow.
And so we went from like 2.
Why is that? Because the folks were just at home and they
folks, well, nobody could get any canned goods too, right? So all the big fellas, the Del Montes, I don't want to say any competition on the show, but everybody basically was already allocated. And so we were able to kind of slither in there and get a lot of this business that some of these big fellas couldn't produce for with some of the stores. So we went from 200 stores to about 4,000 in about a year and a half.
200 to 4,000?
200 to 4,000.
Wow.
Yeah, over 800% growth. And so
that's abnormal.
It's abnormal. Yes. So yeah, the whole family joined in, you know, because up until then it was you know, we had a small staff, but less family, more outsourcing a lot of the work. And my sister joined, mom joined, everybody was all hands on deck, right? Because it was the pandemic. And from there, unfortunately, in the middle of that, my father passed. I'm sure I think you know the story. Also Alpha, I saw your shirt, as you know. And you know, also, I want to say, first of all, thank you for being on the show, having me on the show, because I met you, I think I told you on the phone back in 2012 with my father. And shout out to my Uncle Charles Robinson. You know, he's sitting at home watching right now. If I don't mention his name, he's going to be calling me after the show. So shout out to Uncle Charles. And you were very gracious. I didn't even know what I was doing back then. My dad had started a business, right? But I was slowly, you know, trying to figure out what he was doing. We didn't know. Because, you know, government work, you're like, okay, that's cool, Dad, but I don't really understand it.
Right.
I'm in college. Then he started getting to Walmart. So, I know Walmart, you know, so that sort of interested me, and I was a marketing major at Loyola University. So.
But I want to freeze it there because the government, I want to hit the government piece for a reason.
Yes.
It's because, I was just talking about these folks out here who say, oh, man, you ain't getting nothing when voting. And I keep trying to explain to people that if you look at a significant number of black-owned businesses, they have been able to start and grow because they have been able to access government contracts. They've been able to access city, county, school district, state, federal, and this is a reality. And when I talk about building capacity, the ability to be able to have locked-in contracts. Once you have that, you can go to a bank and say, oh, X number of contracts, X number of goods, this is exactly how many units we're going to be moving out. Now, lines of credit, loans as well. So people were crapping on Biden and Harris, but the reality is it was less than 2%, but it was a record $10 billion in federal contracts that black folks got. So anybody who says that stuff is irrelevant, without those government contracts, there is no expansion to 4,000 stores.
There's no good foods. You know, it was started through government contracts because it's very expensive to do retail business. You know, government work is it's relationship based, so there is a liability with that because one person leaves and then you're kind of liable to whoever's coming up next. If you don't have that relationship, hey, you're out. I got a guy that's cheaper than you. It's very price based. Now in retail, it's about the brand. And that's why you've probably seen us on TikTok. We've been slowly becoming the TikTok brand, and that's great, you know. However you can get the word out.
It's all about name brands. When you walk into a store, folks are looking at name brands. They're looking at, oh, I know that food company, and then what happens is that also impacts where you get placed on shelves.
Yes. So another thing, so I get people say, well, you're on the top shelf at Kroger, you're in the, you know, it's very, very competitive. There's thousands of brands that don't have any shelf space. You know, some of these stores we have 8 SKUs, 7 SKUs. I mean, my dad used to say.
First of all, when you say 8 SKUs, meaning
8 different cans.
8 products. 8 different products in that store.
Yes.
Got it.
Yes. So some places it's regional. You know, some at Walmart's we have 4, Target 4, and Meijer 8. So it depends. But you know, the most expensive real estate in America, my dad used to always say, is that grocery shelf.
Yeah.
Because you have to pay to put on scan down. You have to constantly run promotions. A lot of people get sliding fees. There's a lot of pay to play, and then the marketing. You know, so there's give and take between government and retail, but ideally you want to have both. Right. If you're trying to build a sustainable business.
But people need to understand though, and that when we're talking, a lot of people watching, and I love it when these people got lots of stuff to say. Who don't know a damn thing about the business, who don't understand the reality. We need to have more of this and more of that, not understanding what that takes. I hear all the time in media, and I go, okay, you do know in terms of cameras and teleprompters and monitors and all these, it ain't just easy to say we need this here. And Chicago is a flashpoint because that's what Operation Breadbasket was about. It was leveraging protests to get products in grocery stores. The reason you had those black millionaires and those major black businesses in Chicago in the late 60s and early 70s and 80s was because of Operation Breadbasket. But you then come in, your dad then comes in in what I would call that second wave, because basically you had this first wave of black people who were in corporate America, then that second wave in the wake of the civil rights movement comes in the late 80s and 90s, and now it's a different type of focus. And it's just, people have to recognize what that history is, and it's not as simple as saying, "Oh yeah, we need to have a black canned good company." Okay, but there are real things that go with that.
Yes, it's not as easy as we make it look. You know, to get into 4,000 stores. I mean, there was a lot of. It's not like we just went. You know, my dad had built relationships. We had to show up at different networking events, right? We had to pull up to some of the golf outings, right? I mean, I go on for hours about what it took, you know. I even saw you have a putt-putt. Like, literally, my dad, you know, at a certain point, kind of what happened was we transitioned, got all these stores, but as right before we expanded, he was in his 60s, right? So he was ready to retire. He said, "Drew, I'm going to let you take over at this point. I'm going to stay on as a mentor, board of advisor, but you do what you do. I'm done. I put in my years of work," right? And so, long story short, we were at the Kroger version of Chicago's grocery store. It's called Mariano's. And we're about 300 stores. This is right in the pandemic hit. You know, everyone doesn't really know what the future holds. And my dad was like, "I don't want to do anything else. Like, I told you, you're taking over." I dragged him down to this event, downtown Chicago. He's the type to pull up at the event. He's got his miniature putt. He's like, "You don't care who's around." I'm like, "Dad, okay, fine. Do that. Just stay here for a presence." Literally, the Kroger buyer flies to Chicago randomly. Dad, and we had no idea. And I run over, I find out he's out. I'm like, "Dad, put the putter down." The Kroger, you know, he's a Cincinnati guy, so this is a big deal for him.
Right.
And so, long story longer, he, you know, we found out that we were local. We had all these canned goods stored in our warehouse, and that's how we really expanded. And from there, just trickle effect, you know. Literally, that's it.
It's relationship.
It's relationship.
I'm going to bring my panel in just a second here, but one of the things that we also talked about is that you guys are in Target. And that was not an easy thing to get. Again, getting into these retail stores takes a long time. How long did it take for y'all to crack that code to finally get in?
Target was, I mean, we started back in 2017. I'll say that I actually put it out there, hey, I want to be in Target, and for everybody from our banker to my father to just our accountant said, hey, that's even our farmers, the farmers that we produce with, that's a very difficult account. Target is not a traditional grocery store. They don't really move a lot of food products.
Gotcha.
So, but hey, you have my blessing if you get it. So from there, it was like 200 emails, right, to the Target buyer. Never, no responses. Some little response, hey, they connect you with this person, you get a meeting, and the business terms don't work out. And so the process was like 5 years. It was 5 years of just going back and forth. And so I say, like all the time, it's like the stores you see us in, they agreed to our business terms. I pitch regularly every day of my life to every store possible. So I would love to be in H-E-B, Costco's, even more Walmarts, more Targets. So, you know, it was not an easy process, and it was way before, you know, a lot of the controversy that's going on. And so a lot of times people don't understand the history. You know, 2 decades of work went into Target even being able to take us seriously. I had to get into Kroger first. I had to get into Walmart first. Oh, okay, now you're really in my backyard. You know, I'm within a 10-minute direction of every Target. Okay, I have to take these guys seriously. You know, one of those situations you kind of be too good to ignore.
How have y'all been impacted by the Target boycott?
We took a huge hit in January. You know, up until January, when we did get into Target, actually became our #1 seller, #1 selling store. When January hit and all the controversy came out.
January 24th, this memo about them ending DEI drops. Next day, a couple of calls for a boycott. Then all of a sudden, that thing starts February 1st.
So I would say within the first week or two of February, we saw a dramatic decrease. I mean, almost 50% decrease in sales, because the audience that they had brought us in really to push us at was no longer going to the store. And, you know, knock on wood, we've luckily in the last month, I would say, literally. I mean, people are starting to slowly get back into the store. We saw an increase and saw some of the sales back on certain items, but, you know, it wasn't like before, you know, when we were really moving, you know, before January.
Did they, and I'll talk to other folks, did they communicate with Black-owned companies what they were going to do? I talked to others who said they were totally caught off guard by this decision, and they were sort of left out there being forced to defend themselves. People like, yo, man, pull your products, not understanding that you have contracts. That's money. Ain't that simple to say, take your product off shelves?
Right. You know, we were very blessed, and so a lot of people don't realize, like, there's a lot of African-American executives at Target. Nobody knows what's going on, except the CEO and the investors. Everyone else is just kind of trying to figure it out. This is from what I understand. I have a broker, I have a sales rep, but, you know, we didn't get a memo. We had to kind of fend for ourselves, but I will say that the buyer, specifically for canned goods, it was a young African-American woman. Huge shout out to her because she really kept us in the loop. She was very transparent when I said, hey, what should I do? What can I say? You know, because I'm getting, you know, emails and voicemails like, you know, take your product off the shelf. People don't understand there's fees and fines associated with thousands, hundreds of thousands, depending on your distribution. You know, it's not like I can just pull it off. And also, you understand, a lot of people, you use Target to leverage in other stores, you know? So, yeah, it's not easy. I can't just take it off without a huge repercussion of some, and a lot of companies could go red, could go under with fees like that.
And have they since communicated with you and others? And because what I've heard from other Black-owned companies said, they're like, dude, like, yo, y'all gotta say something. Y'all gotta communicate. This going in this cone of silence is nonsensical, and they're not even willing to sit down and talk with, you know, the leaders of the boycott to walk. I keep hearing. I saw Rich Dennis go on the Breakfast Club talk about all these great things Target has done, how amazing they've been, and I said to Rich, okay, so when is Target gonna say that?
Right.
He's like, well, that's on him. I'm like, well, that's one of the reasons why they're getting their butts kicked.
Yes. And that's why I wanted to come on the show, because I think, you know, we have a very unique situation in the sense that the buyer that I was dealing with, I will never not say that she was super transparent and super helpful throughout this process. She is now off the desk, so I have a new buyer that I'm dealing with. But they've been communicating as far as like business. Hey, you know, I'm getting orders every week, but as far as what was announced in January, nobody knows. My broker has an office down the street from Minneapolis, next to Target headquarters. He doesn't know. He can't get any answers. So wow. I have to kind of play it by ear, and it's a day-by-day thing.
Before I go to the panelists, you mentioned Costco. Costco, you know, affirms their support for DEI, and so I put something out on social media as a test, as a test. I just asked the basic question, hey, y'all know how many Black-owned products are in Costco? And it was like 6 or 8. And all these Black folks were getting mad at me. You know, we can't boycott somebody else. I said, I'm sorry, I didn't even mention the boycott. But I had a problem that folk could only name 6 or 8. Clearly, y'all have a great product and it's doing well. Why are y'all not in Costco?
That's a great question. I would love to be in Costco. Like I said, I'd love to be in H-E-B. I would love to be in all the Albertsons. I've pitched to them, and I am working diligently. One thing I will say about Costco, no matter who you are, right, there's small business problems that everybody deals with that transcends race. I know folks that get into stores and they're like, oh, my product's in the back, or they don't see it on the shelf. That, you're a small business. You're a new brand. It's going to get lost in the sauce. You're not top priority. So yeah, I would love to be in Costco. You know, hopefully somebody's watching and they can reach out, but it's expensive. You have to do bulk packaging. A lot of times most brands, small businesses can't afford that. You know, instead of like a traditional one can on the shelf, you now have to do a special wrap and 12-pack, sell it on the shelf, right? It's bulk orders. Then they want you to do maybe a custom wrap. That's another additional price. Right. And something like canned goods, super slim margins, that could really crush you. There's no room to make any money. So you might get a huge order, but how much did it cost to make that?
Got it.
Yeah.
Questions for the panel. Rebecca, you first.
Andrew, thank you so much for being on the show tonight. So there are many questions in the chat, and the biggest question is that you're talking about your products and you're saying that they're all natural. Do you use GMO or genetically modified plants?
No, all of our products are non-GMO, and we source from some of the highest quality soil in the country, in the Upper Peninsula region of Minnesota, right on the border of Minnesota and Canada. And so everything is grown in the U.S. We use a co-op of farmers that are within a 100,000-mile radius, that are literally hundreds of miles from any type of pollution. We don't use any glyphosate or pesticides on the crops as well. So everything is non-GMO, and you will see that on the label. I don't know if you need a close-up, but all of our products are labeled non-GMO.
Robert. All right. Robert's not there, not a problem. Yeah, I'm looking at the product here. It says, good foods, all natural sweet peas. I will never be eating these. I hate peas. So I'll do corn, man, I can't stand peas. Don't even get me started on peas.
I got a case of corn for you.
Don't even get me started on peas.
Oh, you like cranberry sauce? Thanksgiving, cranberry sauce?
Maybe.
Okay.
I don't eat many vegetables. Blaming it on my daddy. We used to have vegetable week. He's the man, look, don't even get me started. See, you about to trigger me. And it says picked and packed same day. What does that mean?
That means within 24 hours of the crop being pulled, it is canned and sealed. So it seals all of the nutrition within basically a day.
Got it. Non-GMO, no preservatives, BPA free. What is that?
That means the cans are BPA free. So there's a very thick lining between the food and the can that prevents any contamination or any type of bacteria from getting into it.
Said no salt added. No salt. All right, cool. Let's see here. This is good sweet peas hummus. I think this is a recipe.
Recipe idea.
I want to give folks recipe idea.
Yeah.
All right, cool. And then
all the products are WIC approved, so very strict dietary guidelines go into that. No sugar added to any of our products.
And you purposely have your dad's photo on here.
I do. Yeah, that was sort of like just a tribute to him and everything he's done. And we put that on about 2 years ago. And so a lot of people resonated with that in the story.
Total number of products y'all have?
10 items right now.
They are?
Peas, corn, green beans, mixed vegetable.
Hold up, peas? No. Corn, yes.
Okay. Green
beans? Yes.
Okay, so you're not gonna like the mixed vegetables. That's peas, corn. Okay, chickpeas.
Pass.
Black beans.
Hell no.
You gotta try the black. I'm gonna get a candy.
Not gonna happen.
Okay.
Not gonna happen.
Pinto bean.
I guarantee, absolutely not.
Kidney beans.
Hell no. You don't understand. We had growing up in Houston, in our pantry, we had like the middle shelf was every bag of bean known to man.
Okay.
I'm talking about you open the pantry, bags of beans are falling out. All right? My dad is a bean lover. If I don't see another bean in my life, it'll be awesome.
So you traumatized.
Dog, you don't understand. I'm guaranteed I'm gonna get a text from him. I mean, if you name a bean, a bag was in that pantry.
Okay.
Like every bean on the man.
I'm gonna get you some corn.
Rebecca, what's up?
So look, we've been talking about health and how food and nutrition is good for foundational health. This is how our ancestors lived to be like 100 years old or 105 years old. So, you have to get your protein through some non-animal products.
Right. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna eat the vegetables. I'm gonna eat the vegetables that I like.
How do you not like vegetables?
I just told you why I don't like them.
No, you did too. I'm asking, how do you not like vegetables?
Easy, because I don't like them.
Well, guess what? There's a lot of
I done told you.
It's good for us.
Listen, I'm real clear.
5 to 7 servings a day.
Okra is green, and okra is green as a vegetable. I eat that.
Okay.
Green beans. Green beans, especially made with garlic sauce. Rebecca, breathe. Rebecca, breathe. Green beans.
Andrew.
Green beans, I'll do that.
Okay.
Cabbage, absolutely would do that.
Okay. I'm gonna have to get an okra then.
Boom, we good right there. We good right there.
But you're not getting your micronutrients. Are you taking a daily multivitamin then? Because you're missing a bunch of.
Actually, you're wrong. Yeah, baby, it's called one a day. See, I'm way ahead of you. I'm way ahead of you. See, don't be. See.
But our bodies absorb it better when we actually
I
eat it.
understand all that. I just made it clear to you what I ain't eating. I remember when George H.W. Bush was president, and he was like, "Look, I'm the president. I ain't eating broccoli." And all these broccoli produce folks parked 18-wheelers in front of the White House of broccoli. He's like, I don't give a damn how many trucks out there. I ain't eating broccoli. That was the one time I was like, HW, I'm with you on that one right there.
I'm gonna have to pull up with some bean truck.
You come up here with a bean truck, you gonna get cut. I'm telling you, my daddy love it, but I ain't. So, Rebecca, you can shake your head all you want to.
I'm trying to live until 105 years old. So I know I need to eat. I'm trying to live until at least 105 years old and have a good quality of life. That requires good
beans are part of longevity. Look at the oldest.
George Burns smoked a cigar 4 cigars every damn day. I don't even smoke it. He lived to be like 102. So,
touche.
Okay, all right. So what? He smoked a cigar. So what? They tell you don't smoke. And hell, he did cigars every single day of his life. Okay, all right, okay.
Roland, you're doing too much. You're doing the important work in this country, and
I already told you.
Nutrition has to be on point.
I know the vegetables I eat. I will eat cabbage 7 days a week.
Okay.
Is it a vegetable? Yeah. Is it green? Yeah. End of story.
So you are getting some vegetables in.
Huh?
You are getting some vegetables.
Yeah,
Okay. I got nothing to complain about. Okay.
I do green beans.
Right.
I do cabbage.
Right. You said corn, right?
I do corn.
Okay, corn. I got you on the corn then.
Hell yeah. And corn is a vegetable.
Yes. Yes.
I love that people say,
it's a starchy vegetable.
See, hold up. I'm talking to the vegetable expert here, Rebecca. I think he knows something about. So, corn is a vegetable.
Corn is a vegetable. Corn is described and categorized as a vegetable.
Precisely.
Yes.
That's what it is.
Now, people digest it differently, so that's a whole nother story.
Precisely.
And a lot of that is based on...
I ain't got no digestion problem.
Right.
But again, I eat 3 green vegetables. Rebecca, but I damn sure not gonna eat no asparagus, green peas, broccoli, or the rest of that stuff. If you want that, go right ahead. I already covered that. Hey, Rebecca, we already covered all that. Rebecca, it don't even matter. You can sit here and you can holler, scream all you want to. I don't care. You can dress that sucker up however you want to. It ain't gonna happen. Now, let me.
How do you get fiber?
Huh?
How do you get fiber?
What the hell you think oatmeal is for?
Okay.
With sugar.
Hold on. Oatmeal not fiber? Oatmeal not fiber?
Wait, is it processed oatmeal? Is it still cut oats? What kind of oatmeal is it? Is it that instant?
What are you talking about? It's oat damn meal. See,
oatmeal does have fiber, but
I love how they throw something out, then you want to add some stuff. No, it's oatmeal. Is that not fiber? That's fiber like a mother.
It depends on how it's processed, what the actual reliability of that fiber.
Yeah, okay, all right, okay. Then let me go.
I will say there's nothing better than the root, the vegetable from the ground, right? That's the best source of fiber, is getting it straight from the ground. But definitely, yeah.
Oatmeal got a lot of damn fiber.
I ate oatmeal every day growing up.
Every damn day.
Yeah.
Now, people hate oatmeal, but that ain't my problem. I like oatmeal. I'm good with it.
Okay.
Any damn thing else you got to add?
Well, oatmeal at least keeps your cholesterol in check.
You damn skippy. That's why I don't have high cholesterol. And I got low blood pressure until you bring up them goddamn vegetables. Then the blood pressure go up. That's how it works.
There's no sugar and sodium, so hopefully they're bringing you down.
And there you go. First of all, and the same thing. When you look at the sugar content, sodium content, like I was playing golf the other day. I was like, yo, want something to drink? They had Powerade. That sucker had so much. Wait, the Fanta soda had less sodium than the Powerade.
No, you got to water those down.
There you go. So it's like, yo, you pay attention to it.
Yeah.
You know, but you got loud folk over there talking about, you know, eating vegetables and beans and then want to questioning my fiber intake. Anyway, anyway, let me ask. So let me ask you this here. Let me ask you this here. In terms of what's next, what's next?
What's next is Good Foods is going to keep expanding products. We're going to be throwing what we can against the wall, seeing what sticks. I got apple juice coming. We're getting into plantain chips. That's some of the couple things I could talk about. And then really transitioning back into the government sector, you know, because we took a lot of the last 3 years to really focus on retail and build the brand and the name. But as you know, with the just whole climate of the economy, it's tough out there. So we're really balancing a little bit more on the government side, but look out for some new items from Good Foods to be tested out, and check us out at goodfoodsfamily.com. Type in your zip code on our store locator, and you'll be able to see where you can find Good Foods at. We're also online at Target.
So you said Good Foods, G-O-O-D-E.
Yes.
Foodsfamily.com. So you go to the website, find in stores.
Right.
So let's say we're here in the DMV. So let's put in our zip code here, the Black Star Network Studios. Let's see where y'all located.
And we're not too many DC stores, but we are in the surrounding Maryland and Virginia. So probably Food Lion, Kroger, some Targets probably pop up.
Okay. All right then. So again, y'all go to goodfoodsfamily.com, G-O-O-D-E, yes. Foodsfamily.com. You can check out where to get it. Do y'all do any online sales direct, or do you have to go through a store?
Yeah, we go through Target because canned goods, just the cost of shipping canned goods, it's not feasible financially. Most canned food companies don't ship direct. They use a Target or a Walmart. So the Target really helps us alleviate that cost of shipping and keep the price down so people can afford to buy the products. And then also, if you are a Thanksgiving turkey cranberry sauce person, remember, put that ocean spray down, grab some Good Foods. We are officially a Target. So
there you go.
Yes, sir.
So we are here. So I'm trying to sit here and type into the website. There we go. The iPad was acting up. Okay. So let's see here. So yeah, your location. Yes. So I'm looking at a couple of Targets in Silver Spring, a Food Lion in Rockville, Maryland, another Food Lion in Laurel, and so there are a number of locations in the Maryland area. Also, I see a Food Lion in Sterling, Virginia,
yes.
Woodbridge, Virginia.
Yes.
So yeah, folks, just go to the website and then put in your zip code, and then you'll be able to find it there as well. Well, Andrew, we certainly appreciate it. Good luck with growing the company again. You know, I talk all the time about how we have to build capacity, and it's not simple. And people have to understand the business of the business. You can have a great idea for a product, but if you don't understand that business part, the rest of that stuff don't matter.
Right.
All right.
Appreciate the opportunity.
I appreciate it. Thanks a bunch.
Thank you, sir.
Folks, going to a quick break. When we come back, a couple more stories to do right here on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. And I ain't eating them damn beans, Rebecca. Back in a moment. I guarantee you, my.
This week on the other side of change.
Zohran Mamdani, the New York City mayoral race, and this progressive wave that has sent such a shockwave through all of New York City and really the rest of the country. Emil Bove is going to help us understand what this mayoral election means and how we make sure that it translates across the nation.
Can you imagine national Democrats like identifying themselves as having flavor or riz or swag? Like, absolutely not, right? So hopefully the city does what it can in November to help resurrect this dying party and honestly just resurrect our democracy.
Only on the other side of change on the Black Star Network.
Hello, I'm Jamia Pugh. I am from Coatesville, Pennsylvania, just an hour right outside of Philadelphia.
My name is Jasmine Pugh. I'm also from Coatesville, Pennsylvania.
You are watching Roland Martin Unfiltered. Stay right here.
Folks, this administration has no problem with racists. The Senate is about to confirm the same guy who called the Proud Boys just a group to scare left-wing people to lead, of all things, the nation's top counterterrorism agency. Joe Kent, Trump's pick to head the National Counterterrorism Center, is a former CIA officer in Green Beret who's twice lost congressional races in Washington state. But it's his far-right views and inflammatory statements that have sparked serious concern. He's promoted conspiracy theories, blaming the FBI for the January 6th Capitol attack, downplayed violent extremist groups, and targeted black activists. Now, the same man could soon be the one in charge of the National Counterterrorism Center, the agency responsible for analyzing and coordinating all U.S. intelligence on terrorism, foreign and domestic. Do y'all now see how crazy and deranged it is to have Donald Trump in charge? How many times have we told y'all what's going on here? It just keeps happening. Folks, longtime Democratic Congressman Denny Davis says he will not seek re-election and is retired. He's expected to formally announce his retirement this week, concluding nearly 30 years of service in the U.S. House of Representatives. He was first elected in 1996. He's been a prominent advocate for issues affecting urban communities and social justice. Before his tenure in Congress, he served as a Chicago alderman and as a Cook County commissioner. His departure signifies another shift within the Democratic caucus as several veteran lawmakers prepare to step aside. Davis is anticipated to endorse Illinois State Representative LaShawn Ford as his preferred successor in the heavily Democratic 7th Congressional District. It also means I'll be losing another alpha brother there in Congress. Folks, I mentioned this earlier. Trump's DOJ dismisses fraud charges against a Trump donor, the founder and chairman of restaurant franchisor Fat Brands. Andrew Wheatonhorn was indicted on allegations of concealing $47 million from the IRS, which he improperly characterized as shareholder loans. In Tuesday's court filing, U.S. Attorney Bill Asaley in L.A. announced the dismissal of all charges without prejudice. The filing called for withdrawing the indictment against Fat Brands, as well as his former chief financial officer and an outside accountant. It did not provide a specific reason for the dismissal. Wheatonhorn's trial had been scheduled for January. Rebecca, this just goes to show you, Donald Trump has no problem hooking up his donors, and as long as they cheat, he's good with it.
Yeah, and even with the white nationalist perspective as well, when we see it's these people who they have no ethics, they have no morals, but they also have a particular ideology. But this is par for the course in America. There's been many administrations in this country that have had white nationalists in government, as well as doing favors. Like, there's a lot of people who are suspicious of our system because they always think that there's corruption in the system. Well, the corruption now is right out in the front, and people are seeing it, they're ingesting it, and now we have to ask the people to do something about it. Do something about it going into the elections this fall. Do something about it next year during the midterms.
No, well, Donald Trump, he loves a tax cheat because he's one of them. All right, Rebecca, we appreciate it. Robert, we appreciate it being on the show as well. He had to go earlier. Folks, that's it for us. Don't forget, support the work that we do. Listen, ain't nobody else doing this here. No other black-owned media has a live daily news show that speaks to African Americans, that centers us. And guess what? YouTube every week drops their latest poll, the top 100 podcasts. We are hanging tight at 77. And we're the only black news outlet in the top 100. Everybody else who's black is sports and entertainment. Or there's a couple of far right wingers on there. And so that's why your support of this show is critically important, because we don't have millionaires and billionaires sending us money, cutting us checks. We don't have these major advertisers doing ad deals, Big Pharma, these agencies, Group M, Horizon, all of these folks, they're not supporting us as well. And so, look, it's all about you supporting us, and so it matters, and so we can keep doing the work that matters. And so, Cash App, if you want to contribute via Cash App, use the Stripe QR code. You can see it right here. You can use it for credit cards as well. Check some money order. P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037 0196. PayPal, R. Martin Unfiltered. Venmo, RM Unfiltered. Zelle, Roland at RolandSMartin.com. Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Download the Black Star Network app. Apple phone, Apple TV, Android TV, Roku, Amazon Fire TV, Xbox One, Samsung Smart TV. Be sure to, of course, Get my book, White Fear, How the Browning of America is Making White Folks Lose Their Minds, available at bookstores nationwide. Get the audio version I read on Audible. Also, get our Roland Martin Unfiltered gear from shopblackstarnetwork.com. We have changed vendors. We're not using Custom Spring. We had way too many problems with your orders. If you ordered from them, go to RolandSMartin.com, go to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com, send us an email. We'll help you get your products, but we use a different company now. So if you want to get your T-shirts and your mugs and hats and all that good stuff, it's a different company we're using. Go to ShopBlackStarNetwork.com. You also see all of these products that are here on my news desk. These are all the products that we're carrying on our ShopBlackStarNetwork.com. All of these are black-owned companies, and so if you want to support black-owned companies, we got toilet paper, we got different sauces. You've got the gym wraps from Nicole Ari Parker. You've got drink mixes. You've got, of course, popcorn. All kinds of different treats. And so go to shopblackstarnetwork.com to support these black-owned businesses. And don't forget, download the app Fanbase. Of course, black-owned social media app. If you want to invest in Fanbase, of a $17 million goal, Series A raise. They've already raised about $12.7 or $8 billion. Go to startengine.com/Fanbase, startengine.com/Fanbase. All right, folks, that's it. I'll see you tomorrow right here, Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network.